It's showtime. Kim Jung-un, the new leader of North Korea. Of course, as you can imagine, they are pumping out the propaganda, and here's what they have on him so far. It's great stuff. So he is currently 28, or 29, or 30, no one really knows. But according to the official state media, he learned to drive at the age of 3. By 8, he could safely maneuver dirt roads at 75 miles per hour.
I love how specific that stuff is, right? Like the age
not
of
68 miles, not 82, 75 miles per hour. There he is right there. See that little kid?
Oh, at that point, he's already
at that
driving.
Age, he was wrestling great white sharks.
with laser beams on their heads. Right. I mean, he's only an 8-year-old. It's not like he can maneuver him at 85 miles an hour.
And as a teenager, he mastered 4 different languages, and he's learning 3 more right now.
Well, that actually is a little bit more believable, especially when you started with, as a teenager, he mastered. And I was like, oh boy, where is this going?
And he finished the Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds when he was 2 years old.
Oh, come on! You gotta make your life slightly credible. Like the language one, yeah, there's some like European dudes who know 4 languages as a teenager,
He
right?
wrestled a grizzly bear when he was 8.
When he was 8, of course. Did the grizzly bear give up?
And he invented the question mark.
That's not true. But the grizzly bear thing is are they actually?
No, I made that up too.
Okay.
But you can't tell. You can't tell what you made up.
Yeah.
You can't, okay? But here's the thing. He doesn't often drink beer, but when he does, he prefers Dos Equis, because he's definitely the most interesting man in the world.
Their main objective is to make sure that they keep their citizens in the dark and fearing them. Like there's like deity-like figures where you have to say, okay, well, God, if the kid can drive at 3, well, I should listen to him.
I can't believe that they believe it. I just think this is just the delusions of a madman, and he says it for himself. You know, it's like a crazy person who just tells ridiculous lies about himself. And they want people to believe it, and most of the times they don't, but you have to pretend you believe it because they're all powerful and they can kill you.
I hear you. My only last thought on that is that these cult of personalities do work. They work in the short run. They definitely don't work in the long run, right? But so many of the people who have built these cult of personalities have, effectively used it for the rest of their lives to keep people down, and of course, there's so many other factors. The fact that they don't have any other information, the fact that they got a gun pointed to their head, and if they say anything wrong, they're in a concentration camp. All those things help, right, in keeping people oppressed. But so far, it's not like it's proven not to work.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to hear what else he can do. This is going to be great stuff.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Well, good. I'm glad you raised that, and it's a critical issue. I think it's not just an economic issue. I think it's a moral issue. I think it's frankly not moral for my generation to keep spending massively more than we take in, knowing those burdens are going to be passed on to the next generation. And they're going to be paying the interest and the principal all their lives. And the amount of debt we're adding at $1 trillion a year is simply not moral. So how do we deal with it? Well, mathematically, there are 3 ways that you can cut a deficit. One, of course, is to raise taxes. Number 2 is to cut spending, and number 3 is to grow the economy. Because if more people work in a growing economy, they're paying taxes, and you can get the job done that way. The president would prefer raising taxes. I understand. The problem with raising taxes is that it slows down the rate of growth, and you can never quite get the job done. I want to lower spending and encourage economic growth at the same time. What things would I cut from spending? Well, first of all, I will eliminate all programs by this test if they don't pass it. Is the program so critical it's worth borrowing money from China to pay for it? And if not, I'll get rid of it. Obamacare is on my list. I apologize, Mr. President. I use that term with all respect, by the way. Good. Okay, good. So I'll get rid of that. I'm sorry, Jim. I'm going to stop the subsidy to PBS. I'm going to stop other things. I like PBS. I love Big Bird. I actually like you too. But I'm not going to keep on spending money on things to borrow money from China to pay for. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'll take programs that are currently good programs, but I think could be run more efficiently at the state level and send them to the state. Number 3, I'll make government more efficient. I'm going to cut back the number of employees, combine some agencies and departments. My cutbacks will be done through attrition, by the way. This is the approach we have to take to get America to a balanced budget.
Talk to the hand.
When I walked into the Oval Office, I had more than $1 trillion deficit greeting me. And we know where it came from. 2 wars that were paid for on a credit card, 2 tax cuts that were not paid for, and a whole bunch of programs that were not paid for, and then a massive economic crisis. And despite that, what we've said is, yes, we had to take some initial emergency measures to make sure we didn't slip into a Great Depression. But what we've also said is, let's make sure that we are cutting out those things that are not helping us grow. So 77 government programs, everything from aircrafts that the Air Force had ordered but weren't working very well, 18 government programs for education that were well-intentioned but weren't helping kids learn. We went after medical fraud in Medicare and Medicaid very aggressively, more aggressively than ever before, and have saved tens of billions of dollars, $50 billion of waste taken out of the system. And I worked with Democrats and Republicans to cut $1 trillion out of our discretionary domestic budget. That's the largest cut in the discretionary domestic budget since Dwight Eisenhower.
Shut up!
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
You're fired.
I'll be back.
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 I'll be back. I'm back.
What the hell did you do to him, man?
I did nothing. The pavement was his enemy.